Hello, hello. My name is Karstein Røsnes Ersdal, and today I want to talk to you about how to grab your players' attention on mobile platforms. Say you have released a free-to-play title on mobile platforms. When players are trying out your game, the first 5 minutes are crucial. This goes for games outside mobile platforms as well. But on mobile platforms, there are thousands of free games out there for players to choose from, and they are just seconds away. This means that if your player doesn't find your game interesting, and you don't catch their attention early on, nothing stops them from quickly moving on and forgetting about your game forever. In this video, I want to look at what makes a great intro, and I want to shine light on some things you should think about when creating a game intro, specifically on mobile platforms. So why do we say that the first 5 minutes of a game is so important? Firstly, is the importance of making a good first impression. When a game makes a bad first impression, the negative feelings are hard to change, and players will quickly move on. First impressions matter when you want to build a lasting trust, meaning that you must give the players a reason why they should trust your game with their time, and why their time will be spent on something great. Secondly, the first 5 minutes sets the tone of your game. This establishes an expectation for how the rest of the game will continue. You have these 5 minutes to make the player excited. Giving a good first impression gives your game the benefit of the doubt, and they will continue playing. In games, we find 3 main elements that can be used effectively to grab your players' attention. These are narrative, mechanics, and spectacle. For simplicity's sake, we can in this context define narrative as something players experience rather than do. This is where we find the use of story. A strong element for a story-centered intro is the element of mystery. This is because human curiosity is a very powerful emotion, as it represents the thirst for knowledge, which relates to exploration, investigation, and learning. This mystery will call for exploration of your game and interaction, not just observation. Mystery can be something odd, unusual, or out of place. It can be something unanswered that engages the player's need to know. It is something that cannot be resolved without exploring. In other words, playing. You still need a plot, good characters, and a unifying theme, or your mystery will quickly feel without substance. But presenting these things in the first 5 minutes of your game, especially characters, can be hard. Putting in enough characterizations to grab the players and characters alone in the first minutes is challenging, but not impossible. A common narrative hook is to sell the world that the game takes place in. To successfully sell on this kind of narrative, You have to make the player want to live in that world. One set piece can be all it takes to sell what your world is about. This picture is from the iOS game Infinity Blade. If I was shown this during the intro as a player, I would say to myself that I was in for an epic world. The key is to understand what is compelling about your world and deliver that in all its glory. Mechanics are the opposite of narrative. Mechanics are things you do, not things you experience. To utilize mechanics to grab your player's attention, a good way is to show off new gameplay features and to let players see what feats they will be able to perform. The key for this type of intro is to understand what players want out of your game. Then you can use this intro to tell them that you will give that to them. Deliver what the player wants to play in your game. Show why it's worth their time and what they get to do. Spectacle is what makes your players go wow. This can be anything we find spectacular in real life or something new and unusual. This is more often than not dependent on cutting-edge technology. Games like Crysis amazed with their cutting-edge graphics, but the problem with this is that it gets your attention at the time, but doesn't hold up. As technology now evolves so rapidly, cutting-edge technology doesn't stay cutting edge for long. Still, this has undeniably great effect at getting your player's attention at the time. A good intro takes of one or more of these, as they are not mutually exclusive. A technique to do this is to use something you probably learned about in school when you were younger, called in medias res. In medias res is to be thrown into the middle of a story that is already in progress, rather than at the beginning. This opens the story with action right away, rather than exposition. This makes it work as a mechanics intro, makes it mysterious because the player doesn't understand all that is going on, because the player is in the middle of the story, and you can also get right to adding spectacle. There is not only the challenge of grabbing your player's attention in the first 5 minutes, but you must at the same time teach them how to play your game. Both of these interests end up conflicting, as tutorials are often looked at as tedious or boring, and will be skipped at the first chance to do so. Therefore, you must carefully plan out how your tutorial will intertwine with your intro. To do this, your tutorial should have as little text as possible, preferably none at all. Letting your players play through the actions instead makes it more interactive, which leads to a better experience and understanding for the player. This works especially well with an intro focused on mechanics, as you can grab the player and show them what makes your gameplay great, and make it great in the tutorial too, all the while teaching them how to play. Having such a tutorial will make your game accessible to more players, and that's essential on mobile platforms. It will also take the players straight to what they want to do, play, especially so on mobile platforms, as their time is limited. A good practice is to reinforce what the players learned by highlighting their use in play, making it even more satisfactory and giving a sense of mastery. The golden rules of tutorials are that they should be skippable. They should not interrupt the flow of play. And the best tutorial is a tutorial no one remembers. While making your game, you should always be mindful of how you'll teach players to play. So for mobile platforms, mechanics are a powerful intro for mobile games, because you're quickly showing the essence of your game as something approachable for new players, and it fits well with a short interaction time on mobile games by having tutorials that adds action and gets the players into the game straight away. Still, this is not the be-all end-all. As we say, games like Horn that empathizes on narrative having great success, and games like Infinity Blade that makes good use of spectacle, proven by the fact that they made a profit of $23 million on the first game in the franchise. But take that with a pinch of salt, as it was 3 years ago. Thank you for listening. I hope you find this tutorial useful. My name is Karsten, and have a great day.